We off in this place, catching vibes, sit back and we blaze in the sky like I'm out of space.
What's going on, Cigar World? What's going on, Cigar Enthusiasts? This is Jack, the Cigar Enthusiast, and I'm back with another banger on the virtual smoke deck, man. I'm hoping you guys are excited about what we have in store for you today. It is going to be freaking amazing. We have an amazing guest coming on to really spend the next hour talking about some stuff that we should definitely be talking about on Cigar Podcast, man. If y'all are new to the channel, my name is Jack. I am the host of the Virtual Smoke Deck and also the owner of Dapper D Cigars, located at 725 Skymarsh Drive in Jacksonville, Florida. If you're new to the Virtual Smoke Deck, go ahead and hit that follow button, hit that like button, create a watch party if you're watching on Facebook. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give us a huge thumbs up. Man, we have an action-packed store. We have an action-packed show in store for you today. If you're new and you don't know how this works, man, go ahead and smash on that comment box and go ahead and drop some jewels down there. Give me a what's up, a hello, a hey, or where you're watching from, a little bit of something to really spice this thing up, man. And also, if you have any questions for our guest of the honor, make sure you let them know in the comment box, and we'll be sure to actually get your question answered by him as well, man. How's everybody week been? Let's hear about that, man. This week has been an action-packed week for me, for sure. Getting closer to our what's up, my love, my beautiful wife chiming in and saying what's up. You should have just said, hey girl, hey. That would have been a lot better. But you know, we're getting a lot of stuff done and in the next footsteps to get to our second location. So we have a lot of moving parts, a lot of important meetings, and did a community service event yesterday. So things has been going well, but I'm not going to hold you up with my boring life because it's not really boring, but it sounded boring with me talking about it. Our guest of honor today is a very influential guy in this thing that we call the cigar industry. I mean, he's been at the forefront of the fight against saving cigar rights for a long time. And I'm really excited to even have him on the show, let alone to just be able to have this intellectual conversation that we're about to have in regards to, you know, PCA and PCA matters and legislation and litigations that is ongoing and pressing in every city, not really city, but state and on a federal level as well. Introducing our guest in the honor of the hour, Glynn Loope. I thought I clicked it. What's up, champ? How you doing?
Jack, one, I didn't deserve that. Two, just because I've been around a long time doesn't mean I'm influential. but I'm flattered and glad to be with you. As I put it, I've been the head cheerleader. I've been a cheerleader and fundraiser and jack of all trades, master of none. But we've got a great team that we'll talk about. My former team, my existing team, our existing team for the industry. We'll cover the whole gamut because we got time to walk through it all.
Walk through it all is exactly what we're going to do. So, man, Glenn, man, how's your day been? How's your week been? Has it been busy?
It's always busy. I mean, every week is like, oh God, will Friday get here? But but then Friday gets here and you go, oh man, it's Sunday night. But I've been blessed and lucky that no 2 days are the same. Yes. Every hour changes in my work day. There's obviously no hours for those of us at PCA and the cigar industry. It seems to be a 24/7 adventure, no matter what time of year it is. And we'll talk a little bit about timing as far as legislatures are concerned during the course of this discussion. But it's a beautiful afternoon here in Virginia, and we're ready to have a great discussion with you about the politics of cigars.
Yeah. So first and foremost, man, I think with the 100 days worth of planning and all of that stuff for the PCA show that just happened in Las Vegas, I want to say it turned out a great show. I think a lot of education was spreaded. I think a lot of people that never had met or introduced themselves before was able to meet. You had young guys like me that's young in the industry able to sit back and have conversations with people that has opened up 10, 15 stores, or been in the industry for 25 years on the resale side. It's just great conversation. One, how's it feel to just kind of be back in the element?
You mean the non-trade show element?
Yes.
Well, one, let's put it this way: we all have our roles to play,
Yeah.
and the whole trade show, how it turned out, everything about it made me proud. Made me proud, but it made me glad of one thing: that I'm not in the trade show business. It's a testament. The success of this show, the success of this show lies with Aaron Holland and Scott Pierce, Colleen, the whole team that made the mechanics of the trade show a success. Scott and Aaron just busting a gut to, sell the booth, secure the booths, collect the money, set up the programming, deal the job from hell, dealing with the hotel and the convention center, and the level of detail. I shudder to think what the playbook must have been for them to pull off this trade show. And let's face it, this was a rebound year.
Yeah.
And to have everybody smiling and happy and hugging and kissing and shaking hands and not fearing death if we do that was an amazing feeling for the industry. It was an amazing feeling for those of us who've had friends in this industry for a lot of years. And it seems like, I'm sure you felt that way, to have that feeling, it feels like it was absolutely forever since 2019.
Yeah.
And Grant, with this, I think it was the right move with the show floor space basically cut in half. The aisles looking flush, the booths looking busy. Manufacturers telling me that they've had record sales during this, and it proved that if you have, I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but if you have anywhere between 500 and 600 of the right retailers in America showing up, people are going to, buy cigars. And let's face it, and we can talk about this later too, but you and I, we're basically living through the second boom. And I don't remember the first boom, but I heard a lot of stories about it. And I do hear a lot of stories right now from manufacturers that are telling me they're selling everything they're making, even now.
Yes.
I'm not going to say post-pandemic, because we're obviously in a very serious stage right now as well. But, at least we're not in lockdown mode. And you and I probably will never live through another time or experience like that, but it's still fresh in our memories.
Yeah.
And to have retailers across America that we feared would be out of business, that we feared that, March, April, May, June, July, and August, 5 very strenuous, stressful months for the nation. To hear that cigars were a source of contentment and a source of relief and a source of solitude amongst all of that incredible stress is really a testament to this industry.
Yeah. I think, nobody expected COVID-19 to happen. Nobody expected the impact of it when it did happen to happen in the magnitude that it did. PCA didn't even know that they were going to have a show this year, or if they would literally be physical. If they would literally be able physically to have a show. To
100 days out. 100 days out.
And you have so many people that is going to just say, well, the show is to change, it's this, is that. you got to understand, a bunch of things factored into that, and the way that show still came about is amazing. I mean, some of the booths you've seen out there was amazing. So,
Well, and I can appreciate, and I get the whole, cigar Disneyland analogy, and I appreciate that. But you got to recognize and appreciate the effort of those that even had to scale down their booths. I mean, you had the elaborate production like J.C. Newman, who did that recreation of their factory, which was absolutely phenomenal. And then you had a lot of major companies. Then thank God they were there, but scaled back. But guess what? They saved a lot of money. They made money. The manufacturers are happy. The retailer was happy.
Yeah.
And you may not have had the elaborate production, quote unquote, but that'll come back. And presentation is part of it. But I think we need to rack this one up as camaraderie and reintroducing ourselves and revisiting what this great industry means to America, what it means to Latin America, what it means to the consumer, as well as those that were doing business in Las Vegas. It's a time of soul searching.
Yeah.
And, to have between 500 and 600 shops and, put over 1,000 human beings gather, and I was talking to some that were just in Vegas last week and the work that were there to show, and they were back for personal reasons. And they were saying, we were glad we got in and got out when we did, because things could be going back into a not lockdown, but scale back mode. And thank goodness to the virtue of PCA, there was a clause in their agreement that if we couldn't have smoking, we weren't going to have a show.
Yeah.
And so excuse me, those barriers were lifted with the governor's office and the state and the health department and the Sands Convention Center not long before that show floor opened. And so there could have been an 11th hour plug, who knows? But timing is everything. And people are still saying nice things about the show. And again, it's a testament to the PCA staff and consultants and the like that pulled off this great event to at least allow us to gather as one, as an industry.
And I think that camaraderie, I'm not going to share anything that was said during that time, because at the end of the day, if you weren't there, then you missed, some great content. But, one of the best pictures I've seen, was with all the manufacturers standing in unity, with each other for that picture, and was chucking the deuces at those that weren't there. How do you foresee the future of PCA? Do you see it going back to expansion, going back to where it was? Or do you think there's going to be kind of a time of rebellion, amongst the other manufacturers?
Well, I don't want to dwell on that part of the equation. I really don't, because one, it hasn't played out. Two, I'm not going to speculate about what direction that 4 major corporations are going to go. I'm not going to speculate about that. But I will talk about the unity question. And I will put it in a more of a political context. Let's put it this way. And I've said this on podcasts a year ago. Where is it written that everybody has to agree all the time? In the world of politics, it doesn't always match up. Political philosophies don't always match up. Political agendas don't always match up. But there are tons of things that we all do agree on. And again, I'm not going to speculate about that quote unquote division, because I think there's common ground out there. And, the Cigar Rights of America has a role to play. The Cigar Association of America has its role to play. And the PCA has its role to play. And we all talk all the time. Even if we don't agree, we all talk all the time. Mm-hmm. There was an issue that came up the other day, and there's this mammoth proposed Senator Durbin tax increase in Washington, D.C. We can all agree that that's got to die. We all can agree that it's got to go away, or the entire industry would be decimated with over 1,000% tax increase. Yeah. And there's a lot of worry out there about that. There's common ground on prohibition versus regulation. And that's the way I put it. The FDA wants to prohibit prohibit the sale and production of certain products. The companies that would impact the most would probably, and I think I can say this on safe ground, would accept some type of nominal regulation in lieu of prohibition. So prohibition versus regulation is something that can bring us all together. Taxation, smoking bans, these are overarching political issues that are common ground. So let everything else play out. I don't know where the future holds for that. I think the PCA has proven that a trade show can be a success at that scale or a larger scale. I think it can prove some degree of flexibility. But I also agree with my boss, Scott Pierce, the executive director of PCA. I totally agree with Scott that, one, we need to diversify our revenue streams for the sake of the industry. There's got to be ways for the industry to raise the funds necessary to carry out its litigation and legislative priorities, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And so there's some soul searching to take place. And I think that we're at a real crossroads in the industry in that regard. So I hate to say let's use COVID as a moment of this reflection, but through some type of a disaster like that, can compel soul searching in a lot of industries, and the cigar industry is no different.
Yeah.
So I think given the political environment in the states, the political environment in Washington, we can find more common ground than not for this industry to be unified on the overarching questions of the day, and let let nature take its course.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Michael Herlotz. Furro Tiago is in the building. I love to see his beautiful face, and he always brings some inspiration. But anyway, but absolutely right. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying Michael is one of the great spiritual leaders. He's not only a business phenomenon in his previous life with Davidoff and what he did with Nat Sherman, and now in this new stage in his life,
man,
he's not only just a business phenomenon. I consider him really one of the great spiritual leaders of this industry.
Yeah. I mean, so positive, so freaking positive that we honestly need more people like that. And to hear from people, like him and yourself, and but I like to call it myself too. But
we need more preachers, and we need more deacons.
Yes, that's absolutely fact. I think a lot of what we're about to go into is gonna be good. What I hate to see is shout out to Ron. I call him my Santa Claus. He comes on and supports us every week, so we definitely appreciate you. He definitely has some concerning questions, but I think it might be a little biased. So what I want Grey Wolf to do is etch out a question that I can put on the screen for him to ask. So one of the ones is, now that this trade show is over, obviously we talked briefly about it in the background. The Senate, the Congress is on, was it like a break or something until the middle of September or end of September. So what is the things that we need to be on the lookout for at this current moment, and what are we doing to kind of fix those things?
Well, let's be very clear. The PCA is a lot more than a trade show. And when I was saying the positive things that I was about the show and the feelings and the like, I meant that with all sincerity. Are there areas to improve? There's always areas to improve. There's always areas to improve absolutely everything. And I've already shared stuff regarding seminars and content, and that's what I was also getting to, is that showing that the convention is more than a trade show.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's a gathering to learn and exchange ideas and to engage in those seminars. And our seminars have to become better attended by manufacturers and retailers alike. So there's a lot of things to improve, but the agenda is far more than a trade show. And we have some very, very serious items at the federal level. Let's take it federal, state, local.
Yeah.
At the federal level, there's some serious threats that we're obsessed with every single day. And let's start with Congress. The Senator Dick Durbin tax measures are a very, very serious threat. It could represent over 1,000% increase in tax on cigars. He's got two bills, and one based on this premise of tax equalization. It's a dangerous, dangerous proposition, and it could be married to a larger piece of legislation, and it's got to be fought. It's got to be killed. It's got to be modified. It's got to be attacked at every corner, and our team is engaged in that. Every sector of the industry is engaged in that, because the search for federal money is going to be a nonstop exercise for the Congress, and we're a target. And day in and day out during this August recess, we're going to be encouraging retailers to reach out to their members of Congress as to why that legislation has to be defeated. At the FDA level, and I will make one slight correction to your wonderful, wonderful promotion. I'm not in charge of the FDA piece of the puzzle, but I'm a part of the team that's attacking the piece of the puzzle. Our team, led by Josh Habersky, and our consulting team and litigation counsel and the political team at CRA, are all engaged on this and talking on a weekly basis on this. And let me tell you what the most serious part of this threat is. The FDA has farmed out a study to the American Academy of Sciences to revisit this whole subject of regulation of premium cigars. And believe me, there's a serious effort to link us to nothing short of a pack of cigarettes. Yeah. And that study is due out next spring, March or April. And my gut feeling is that the FDA will try to use that as a justification for reopening the regulatory process on premium cigars because of the setbacks the court has gone to against the FDA. This industry has won major battles in federal court, expensive battles in federal court. And just as our first piece of the show and tell, this is the original litigation. This is the original litigation filed against the FDA to defend this industry. And I keep it near and dear to my desk here at the home office. This litigation right here, this document represents millions of dollars, pushing over $17 million worth of legal effort to defend this industry in court. That's what this is all about. This is what's worth fighting for. This is what's worth raising money for. This is the reason everybody's got to be a part of this, from the consumer to the retailer to the manufacturer. This right here. Because was this that prevented every manufacturer in the entire premium cigar sector from having to redo their packaging and cover virtually 50% of it with a warning label based upon non-existent science that only exists for other tobacco products. Yeah. They don't have anything to hang their hat. This document proved that and prevented our packaging, our wonderful packaging for the premium cigar industry, from being covered with what our litigation counsel called billboards for government speech. And I want people to remember that. That's what packaging could become, billboards for government speech. And it saved this industry millions of dollars in repackaging costs by having that victory in the federal district court of the District of Columbia, because we had great litigation counsel and we had great guidance from the industry and manufacturers, and the arguments were on our side. I'll get into the other piece of the federal puzzle in a second. So the revisiting of the regulatory process through that American Academy of Science study is a serious threat, and these tax bills in the Congress are a serious threat, and that's what we're consumed with at the federal level. At the state level, we still have serious tax increase measures alive in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We just wrapped up virtually all the other states in the country. There were some serious victories for the industry. And specifically, we thought there would be just a bottomless pit of tax increase bills in 2021. It ended up the nanny state decided to focus on what they called local authority legislation, granting localities from the state, granting localities the ability to tax and regulate cigars and other tobacco products. That would have been a disaster, because then you end up having to fight 90 to 100 to 150 local battles in every single state in the union, versus fighting things purely at the state level. We don't have the resources to fight in every county in America, but that's what this type of legislation would have compelled us to do. And thank goodness that those bills died in every state that it was introduced. But taxing measures, thankfully, would have doubled. The OTP in Maine died. The one in Massachusetts is still lingering. But we can talk about some of the positive things that happened on the legislative front in this year. The state of New York has two great bills filed right now that are still alive that would allow existing cigar shops to have on-premise alcohol license and bring a 50-cent tax cap to premium cigars in the state of New York to help mitigate the damage of the 75% OTP tax that Governor Cuomo and company enacted. We've got examples where positive legislation was just introduced, like cigar bar bills in Montana and North Dakota that serve as a great model for other states. We've had to deal with legislation like in Indiana and Kentucky, Indiana in the past, Kentucky this year, that would have allowed employers to test for nicotine and would have allowed employers to regulate how you enjoy a cigar in your off duty hours, in your off hours, when you're not in your office, when you're not on company time, if you will, allowing them to regulate and allowing your fellow employees to report you. Imagine that. You're sitting on your front porch enjoying a cigar, and one of your coworkers sees you. They would be allowed to report you. This is the type of things that the nanny state dives into that are so very dangerous that we have to keep an eye on at the state level. So with that, we think that things will be quiet right now on the state front until things start cranking back up in October, November, December. And then in January, we start all over again with over the half of the country's state legislatures going back into session. And just to set the stage for another part of our discussion, I do want to talk about two cities that are doing amazing things right now. Augusta, Georgia, and Louisville, Kentucky. Independent of each other, Augusta, Georgia, and Louisville, Kentucky have had members of their city councils introduce cigar bar legislation, allowing cigars to get an exemption from existing smoking ban regulations to allow for the enjoyment of adult beverages, perhaps food, and a cigar, lo and behold, in the same place where we can all be adults together. It's marvelous. It's a marvel. We have voiced our support to both of those cities and the members that are spearheading those efforts. They were both advanced out of committee on split decisions in the last couple of weeks in Augusta and Louisville. And as I said on a Facebook Live broadcast on a government affairs update on Friday, just the fact that they were introduced, just the fact that they were entertained is a step forward and a testament to the political agenda and the recognition that a cigar is not other tobacco products, that it's to be enjoyed among discerning adults. And namely, and this is where we've provided data and research that's as a result of this document that I'll chat about. I reach over to my visual aid section. It's because of studies like this that the industry has provided the FDA to document that we're not a public health threat. We're not a public health threat. We don't have the impact on inhalation, addiction, mortality. And we sure as heck know, and the FDA has recognized this, that we do not have an appeal to America's youth. America's youth are not smoking premium handmade cigars. You know as well as I do. You've been in hundreds of cigar shops like I have. Kids don't walk into cigar shops. Kids don't enjoy it. It's cost prohibitive. It's not attractive to them. And the statistics clearly prove that. It was this study that documented that, one, not only that children aren't gravitating cigars, but the New England Journal of Medicine, the American Medical Association, the Centers for Disease Control, not exactly groups that are friendly to the tobacco sector, recognize that premium cigars are different. First cigarette at 16, first cigar at 27.
Yeah.
And then let's just raise the bar that our demographic is really between 35 and 65.
Yeah.
This analysis reviewed over millions of transactions for cigars. We're not the issue. We're not the problem. And that's being recognized by city councils and state legislatures across this country. And that's a testament to where this industry has been and where it's going now with its political agenda. And I'll climb up now to take some questions.
Yeah, for sure. So, with the legalization of, marijuana, going on in different states, I know you're like, well, Jack, where did this come from? But it kind of hits a question that I have in my comment box. With that type of legislation being passed to legalize recreational use of marijuana, how is that factoring in? Does that have any play on cigar lounges, indoor smoking, um, or is it entirely different? I kind of know the basis of this question, but I would love to hear from you.
Well, the key is making sure that we're recognized as being different. And I disagree with the premise that I just saw. I disagree with the premise that we're impacted by the Connecticut legislation. We've gone on record as that. The Connecticut Cigar Association's gone on record with that. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had nearly over a half a dozen conversations with legislative offices. Um, there's a strong sense of interpretation that we're not the target, that it was a cannabis bill, cigarette bill, not a cigar bill. Um, but with that, being lumped in with other tobacco products and cannabis is a cornerstone of what our political agenda has to be about. Making sure we're not being swept up into these types of issues, whether it's in Florida or Connecticut. And I don't think it'll happen in Florida. And I think we've got such a strong political base there that, that it's beyond the realm of political reason that we
Yeah,
would be. Let's put it this way: there'd be a lot of politicians hating life if they tried to attack cigars in Florida in that manner, and many parts of the country.
absolutely.
But that being said, there's been a lot of incidents where cigars have been impacted or tried to be impacted when the legislatures were trying to attack vape and e-cigarettes, whether in the form of tax increases, tax measures, regulation, and because they're all lumped in together under OTP, other tobacco products, we had to say, whoa, 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 whoa. You might be wanting to make sure you're banning or regulating or stopping the use of vape in public and the like for those products, but we're not them.
Yeah,
And we've had enough legislative champions in most of these states to where that message was able to be heard loud and clear.
yeah,
And it's just once again recognition that we've got to be very cognizant of these things anytime any bill is introduced across the country.
yeah. I think at this current moment, a lot of people have some type of thought process in regards to the PCA. Some, most is in a positive, but you have those that do have a negative spotlight, position on PCA. And I'm not, me personally, I'm just speaking from my personal preference. This knocks nobody else's or anybody that may see this in the future. Personally, I don't see it. I get asked a question all the time. Well, what does PCA do for you? Well, I haven't needed PCA for anything, but I know for sure it definitely helps me network my ass off. It definitely helps me, keep my lounge open if I need to. Um, but in regards to everything going on, like what's your thoughts? I would love to kill it.
Well,
Uh,
let's put it this way: how much is it worth to the industry that this cost $17 million and the PCA and CRE were splitting the bill?
yeah,
How much is that worth? Well, you know what that's worth? It's worth over $500 million,
yeah,
and that's a quantifiable number we've had submitted to us by our litigation counsel and others. This collection of litigation and regulatory input, this represents over $17 million worth of investment between the PCA and the CRA. And that in and of itself saved countless numbers of small boutique companies that could never have afforded to be regulated in the fashion that was presented by the FDA. There is no way on planet, and I could go through a list, and I won't name names, but I could go through a laundry list of small, wonderful companies. But companies, let's just say for the sake of discussion, make less than 5 to 2 million, $2 to $5 million, 2 to 5 million cigars a year. There's no way on planet Earth some of those companies could have survived the level of regulation that was originally planned by the FDA.
yeah,
Those documents saved the day for the premium cigar sector, and the PCA and CRA worked hand in glove with litigation counsel, busting a gut to raise the money to make sure that happened and to put forth the arguments that the government needed to hear, the courts needed to hear, to make sure they knew we were different. What was it worth when Senator Marco Rubio convened the first ever congressional hearing on the question of regulation of premium handmade cigars, and did so in Ybor City, the heart and soul and spiritual center now of America's cigar industry, where you got 7th Avenue as a National Historic Landmark because of what? The cigar industry. And Senator Rubio picked a community college conference room and auditorium right in the heart of Ybor City to hold the first ever congressional hearing, which did what? Put experts on record noting the manipulation of data by the FDA against us, put into the congressional record of that hearing how we were being mistreated and manipulated to be lumped in with other tobacco products. What value is that?
Yeah.
Or the value in fighting smoking bans and taxation across this country on a skeleton staff with a skeleton budget, but galvanizing the retail community to, the old proverbial, the Lord helps those that help themselves.
Yeah.
Well, the retail sector has really learned in these times to how to work together to help itself.
Yeah.
We've got retailers from Gary Colsair in Jersey working on a tax cap, to Mike Glynn and a wonderful board in New York that are defending this industry at that level in the state of New York is a place as complicated as that. Joe Arundel doing the same thing in the state of Washington. John Hull as a volunteer working in the state of Oregon with a collection of retailers there. You got places that are heartbeat, the heart and soul of the cigar industry, like Texas, that have really pulled together a great state association. Georgia retailers coming together to fight a tax increase in there. I could go around this country and where the leadership is coming in from the retail community. It's like I told our guys in Virginia in 2006. I said, you may think you're a tobacconist, but you're not. Now you've got to build politics into your job description.
Yes.
And now there's not a day that goes by that the Virginia retail community, the Maryland retail community, again, I could go all over the country, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Colorado, where amazing retail leadership has been cultivated and coached, and it has blossomed almost holistically to where the political message has gotten across that you've got to be engaged in the political process.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing that I learned, is, for me, we have a bunch of House of Representatives. We just had a bunch of politicians from both sides of the party in our lounge on Thursday, and was able to speak to some of those folks and, talk about the message and, the fact that, a lot of people sit down and have cigars, especially politicians, but they don't understand, when you're presented with agenda that is 700 pages long, that cigars are put in there for a smoking ban, and I think, and so many times I think a lot of people don't really realize the impact the retailer has to have in their community, with their senators, with their House of Representatives, to help with that fight. I may be mistaken, but last time I checked, PCA is not in every single city, every single state, set up with an office to take inquiries on every single legislation. It has to come through, some type of bill that is, picked up by somebody local, and that is from there brought to your guys' attention. That way you can, provide some counsel assistance onto that. But I think a lot of it starts where, with me talking to my local politicians, me going to those community service events, me going to those chamber meetings, me going to, those city council meetings, and, just introducing myself and letting them know, hey, Dapper D's is here. Where, this is something that came up, in y'all last meeting, and I would love to talk about it. Am I mistaken?
No, you're not. But let me give you a couple of examples. One, we have a legislative tracking system at PCA, and every day, every hour, we get alerts. We get alerts on what legislation has been introduced across the country, and then we bring that to the attention of the retail community in that given state. But to go to your point too, keeping your hand on the pulse with your legislators is critical. It's got to become normal thought process that every legislator knows who you are as a tobacconist. They know where your shop is. They know who your customers are. They're not afraid to walk in. They walk in freely and ask you what's going on. Is there anything on your mind? Is there anything we should be concerned about? Hold cigar town halls. Take at the federal level, invite your member of Congress in, and everybody in America lives within a half hour or so of a congressional district office. Visit them. Make sure they know who you are. Make sure they know that this type of tax increase and federal regulatory matter is of incredible relevance to the future of your small business in their congressional district. Every single American lives within an hour of a U.S. Senate district office. Visit them. Make sure they know. Make them think twice. It, excuse me. When PCA issues a petition call, don't ignore it. Yeah. Circulate it to your customers. Make sure they know that these issues are relevant. I've been in all these congressional offices over the last decade. Believe it or not, they do track it, especially if you live in the district. They keep track of the yays and the nays. The problem is there's more of the opposition than there is of us, which makes making sure that we make them think twice is critical to our political success.
You know, Rocky at the trade show mentioned, one great thing during his panel. I believe that Josh facilitated. It had Alan Rubin. It had a couple retailers on there on that panel as well, if I'm not mistaken. But Rocky mentioned something that really stuck out to me, and I say it all the time now: being proactive versus reactive. Not responding to legislation, but responding to the potential to mitigate legislation before it even comes about. So what is obviously that's been kind of PCA's mission, but how outside of PCA, how can that all be performed to become everybody's mission?
Well, I tell you what, the retail community has to take it seriously. It goes back to what I told the guys in Virginia. Politics is in your job description. I know it's easy to get caught up into purely, running your shop and thinking about the needs of your customers and dealing with your vendors and reps and a lot. And I know how difficult and challenging it can be to carve out time when you're running a shop to play the political process, but you've got to do it. You've got to visit your state and local legislators. You got to visit your member of Congress's district offices. You've got to take the time to circulate the petitions. You've got to put cigaraction.org on your website so that your consumers can sign up for it and they can get the alerts. We've got a playbook, and we're getting ready to reissue a new handbook for state associations. And it's going to update all the strategies and pieces of the puzzle, really going to the heart of a lot of the questions that you've asked tonight. Take it seriously. Carve out time to contact your members of your local, state, and federal delegation. Circulate our position papers. Invite them to your shops. I've just reeled off a half a dozen key things that every retailer in America can do to help protect their business in the political process. You got to take it seriously. We've got the playbook. We've given, you the steps to take. If every retailer in America put cigaraction.org on their website, if every retailer in America visited over the course of the next 60 days, each member or office for their local, state, and federal members of their delegations from City Hall to the state legislature, to the district offices of the member of Congress, we're talking about less than a dozen means to outreach, a dozen appointments to make, to reach out to your elected officials, to let them know how important it is to defend this industry and to defend your local small business. The retail sector has got to take this more seriously than they ever have before. Just because we won in court, just because we got a stay of execution on warning labels and pre-market approval of new blends, and let's just think about that one for a second. Let me give you an example. I was in Oregon with the United States Senator's staff, and we met at Broadway Cigar in Portland. And we took probably 8 to 11 retailers represented in the meeting with the senator's staff. And we physically walked everybody into this walk-in humidor. Walked everybody in. we were all standing like this in there virtually, but it was a nice roomy humidor. But we had some, picture about a dozen people in one humidor at the exact same time.
Right.
And I went around that humidor and I said, that company can't afford to be regulated. That company would struggle to be regulated. This company would have its challenges. And by the time we got through circling the humidor, we're talking about 50% of the companies in that humidor being threatened in one form or another. Ironically enough, when the FDA came out with their rule, they virtually admitted that half the industry would disappear. And the small business, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, has an Office of Advocacy to independent of whatever administration they're in. Their job is to defend small businesses in America. They issued a letter to the FDA 7 years ago that said if they regulated in the fashion they proposed, you'd wipe out 50% of the industry. So I asked all the retailers there with that senator's staff, how many of you could afford to stay in business if half of the manufacturers in your humidor go away? Go away. It ain't happening. It couldn't happen. If that's not a driving motivation as to the reason we should work together to implement the political strategies just to carry out these simple tasks that I just mentioned, outreach, consumer engagement, circulating the research papers that we've got posted at cigaraction.org, being engaged at your state level and city hall. We can't do it all as a staff, but we sure as heck can coach and counsel and work together between the manufacturers and the retailers and engage the consumer community in a grassroots campaign to defend this industry. And I think that's what it's all about. And I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, fundamentally that we just have to understand that we have to do more. We can't, call in a state of crisis and when the legislation is already on the desk and try to hurry up and fight it. It takes time to build cases. It takes time to build reports, to build, all of it. It takes time. One of the questions, I'll let you answer this. I think this is a safe one. It says, why can't I join PCA if I have a mobile cigar lounge with a state license?
I'd be glad to look into that, and I'd be glad to voice that concern. If just don't let me forget that, and I will note that as we speak. And I promise to look into it. And if Ron wants to reach out to me, he can reach me at Glynn, Glynn, at premiumcigars.org. And I'd be glad to look into that question for him.
I don't see that kind of being an issue. At the end of the day, that I think that would be something that PCA will welcome, correct?
I can't speak to that as we sit right here on the back porch, but I promise to look into it.
Absolutely. So Glynn, talking about the legislation in a sense, and kind of just being proactive, signing up to cigar rights. Excuse me, Jesus.
No, sign up.
Cigar
sign up for cigar rights and cigar action.
Yeah,
you can't sign up for enough.
Yeah. So signing up for cigaraction.org, what can the consumer expect from that?
Continuous updates, especially going into the state legislative season in January of 2022. Our building process starts right now, right here, right now, today. We need as many consumers in America to sign up for our alerts at cigaraction.org as we can possibly get. We've got to prove we've got a strong, as I've said for the last dozen years, we have to prove that cigar smokers are a political constituency to be taken seriously at the ballot box. I want consumers to send a message to their legislators regarding this proposed federal tax increase and close every comment with this: I will remember on election day. I will remember on election day. I want every comment from every consumer in America. Go to cigaraction.org, go to that federal petition, click on it and put, I will remember your position on this on election day. That's the way every political constituency out there, that's the way every special interest group does it. We shouldn't be any different. There's almost 3 million cigar smokers that have an occasional enjoyment of a cigar in America. There's not a special interest group in the country that wouldn't give their right arm for 3 million voters out there. So if you're passionate about this, if you want to help defend it, make sure your voice is being heard. So let's circulate cigaraction.org far and wide and build that up to a strong, multiple 6-digit base of consumers that can be galvanized at a moment's notice for tax increases or regulatory matters at the state level and what's going on in Congress.
Yeah, Glynn, whenever you get a chance, look at the comment box on that. Maybe after we get off the show or something like that, you can probably respond to Ron's.
Well, like I said, I promise to look into it.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So yeah, I mean, like you said, going to Cigar Rights, cigaraction.org, going to cigarrightsofamerica.org, I believe, and signing up for these things is really what's gonna help, protect our stuff. At the end of the day, we all love to sit down and smoke a cigar. We love to do it inside. So many people love to sit on back porches and patios and different things of that nature. But at the end of the day, let's just be frank about it. You're not meeting anybody at that patio. You're not being able to engage in conversations that could change your life with the blink of an eye from that patio. At the end of the day, we have to be proactive, not reactive to situations. And everybody loves sayings, and I one of my biggest sayings I want to say is let's make PCA great again. You know what I mean? Like, let's get back to the point of where nobody likes to see oh man, I gotta pay $400 or whatever the case may be for a membership. But at the end of the day, if that is going towards protecting these these manufacturers, and I think this is a big one, and I know this is probably going off on a big contingent hiatus real quick. Protecting manufacturers, making manufacturers happy, makes them happy about donating to PCA, donating to organizations that's going to help the retailers. Understanding that once a cigar is labeled and it's imported into America, if I'm not mistaken, there's a 40 cent tax on every single cigar, 40 cents tax on every single cigar. So you think of taxation in that type of magnitude. These manufacturers are already paying millions and millions and millions of dollars in just to get a product in your hand. So we have to do what we need to do in order to make sure that we're protecting them on that end as well. So if it's a $450 contribution to the cause to assist into that, can you hold those two binders, those two packets of paper back up again?
Absolutely, right there.
So if it takes $450 to come up with one piece of paper or half a piece of paper, I'm more than willing to do it, because at the end of the day, like Glenn said, it takes $17 million to produce over an asset of $500 million to go towards the fight of our industry, man. And I think cigar connoisseurs and cigar smokers, and I love you, Ron, and everybody that jumped on this show and jumps on my shows every week. I love you guys, but we have to do more. We can't listen to one side of the story and say, okay, this is my formulated opinion. If you don't like something, you can always contact these people directly. You can always do, take matters in your own hand, and start a petition of your own. If indoor smoking in Connecticut, legislation in Connecticut stops all indoor smoking, then that's a problem that Connecticut needs to stand up for. That's a problem that the retailers need to stand up for, bro. I'm just being frank. I know for sure two things for a fact. If we had that type of legislation happen in Florida, man, we will all be every single retailer would be meeting in somebody else's lounge talking about how or what we can do to stop this.
Real quick, I'll give you a Florida example. Marvin Holthauser with Harbor Cigars in Destin single shop owner there. Marvin took time out of his day to drive all the way from Destin to Tallahassee. And I did that once. Marvin and I and Dr. Gabby Caffey Cigars. One day when Rick Scott was a governor, not a U.S. senator, we went over for a meeting in the governor's office, and Marvin took time out of his day to go over there with us to help make the case into why Rick Scott needed to defend this industry, whether he was governor or a U.S. senator. The moral of the story is this past year, Marvin took, again, time out of his day away from his shop, single shop owner, to go to Tallahassee to provide testimony to the legislature as to why local government should not be allowed to regulate smoking on beaches and at the local level. That victory was won. Now, there'll be a day when that victory is a lot harder to come by.
Yes.
But the groundwork has been laid, and Marvin gave testimony. As he put it, we threw him into the lion's den. And he took some tough questions, but he got some great media for the cause, and it let the voice be heard that this is unacceptable to the premium cigar community of the state of Florida. Retailers across America are doing the same thing. Dave Garofalo takes time from his shops in New Hampshire to go to the Capitol to advocate for the industry in New Hampshire. The guys in Albany, the guys in great women cigar shop owners of New York are doing the same thing with their capital in Albany. Once again, I could walk across the country and show examples of retail leadership, of helping to take the bull by the horns to defend their right to be in business. And we provide that support, advice, and counsel. We provide the studies that show we're not the public health threat. We show the studies that the levels of taxation that are often proposed would decimate this industry, and they help get the message across. It's about all of us singing from the same hymn sheet to make sure that this industry is properly defended. Is it a challenging, difficult process to get to there? Absolutely. Are there emotions involved? Absolutely. But everybody's busting a gut to try to defend this industry. Absolutely. And especially in this post-COVID world where there's a lot of rebuilding going on, and we're still even this industry, obviously, with where we started this conversation with regard to manufacturers selling everything they make, the whole supply chain has been strained. And we've got to think about our friends and brethren and supply network that spans Latin America that supports this industry. Over 300,000 jobs in Latin America allow you and I to do this.
Yes.
That's what allows this to happen. And from seed to the ship, there's a lot of people that work diligently to make sure that you and I can simply have this moment of peace and solitude and conversation together. And we need to recognize that. And the more we do to perfect our political process, the more we can do to perfect our strategies, the more we can do to bridge the sectors of this industry, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely. I'm going to talk about Sweeney a little bit. My man Cy from Ireland. He said there is no unity and support. The world, as well as the United States, will not have a product to sell. It's a crying shame if generations in the future will not be able to enjoy our passion, unity, and strength. Size Sweeney, Cigar Rights of the World, Ireland ambassador. Man, I love it.
Yeah, that's fabulous. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to tell you, what we doing, in our industry is amazing, and the people it touches, the memory it makes, the camaraderie is creating is everything, and we have to protect it at all costs. Hey, Glynn, I know you have a very strict time frame. I just want to highlight a couple things, man. We definitely appreciate you coming onto the show, spreading that enlightenment, showing us that those documents is everything. And I honestly, it was a pleasure just meeting you and your wife at this trade show.
That was fabulous.
And just being able to talk with you in person and just understand your generosity and your genuineness to the industry, man. You can hear it come out of every single word that comes out of your mouth, man. You love this. And
you're too kind. We're all in this together, my friend.
Absolutely. Say, hey, Glynn, one thing that we have on the virtual smoke deck, man, we do this thing called gems, right? Gems is anything that you want to, put out there. It could be motivational, it could be inspirational, it could be, subjective to your personal belief. It could be a script from the Bible. It doesn't matter. Something that that the folks that are watching on and will watch this episode can take away from all of the other gems that we drop throughout this segment.
And you want me to share one?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'll keep it in a raw political context. Winston Churchill, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Winston Churchill said, when laws and regulations cannot be enforced, they build disdain for all law and regulation. Now, that's a paraphrased comment, but the moral of the story is if this country or if your state or your city hall develops a basket of laws and regulations that cannot be enforced, like smoking bans, it builds disdain for all law. In other words, our government at all levels needs to focus on what's truly important. We've got what I call, and I'll consider this a nugget or a gem, as you put it. This country's got higher priorities than what you and I love. You know, there's a lot of people out of work today. There's a lot of people that are sick today. There's a lot of roads that need to be repaired. There's a lot of schools that need to be improved. There's a lot of water and wastewater treatment plants that need to be upgraded. There's a lot of priorities in this country, from national security to housing our people to educating our youth, that should be an infinitely higher priority than regulating a simple passion like smoking a cigar, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And you and I should be offended that there's any federal bureaucrat today that's working on cigars instead of thinking about true public health issues that are truly life and death issues for citizens of this country. We're not in that. That's not us. And we need to pound the message that our government has higher priorities than thinking about you and I sitting on our back porches or in our lounges and simply enjoying a cigar. And along those lines, they need to be thinking about the fact that over 300,000 souls in Latin America make this passion possible, and that there's going to be a huge amount of economic and geopolitical issues to confront if our government threatens those jobs in Latin America.
Absolutely.
So that goes into this whole big basket from schools to Latin America that need to be thought about in this context. There are higher priorities than figuring out how to cause a train wreck for your shop and shops like yours across America.
Absolutely. Well, Glynn, we definitely appreciate your time and you coming out and just taking this time to spread some wealth and knowledge on the virtual smoke deck, man. You have a great day. Continue to do great things, and man, I look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thank you. Let's schedule an update sometime soon.
Absolutely, and we definitely got to get you to Jacksonville. So call your friend, do a 2-on-1 special, and we'll definitely get some congressmen, some house, city representatives, all that type of stuff in the building, so we can have that same walkthrough of the humidor, and hopefully 12 doesn't pack us out.
I love it. Let's make it happen.
All right, Glynn, you have a good day, good sir.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Hey, man, I want everybody, I'm going to leave the tickler going for a little bit. Go to cigaraction.org and definitely sign up today, man, and get linked in, get equipped with all that stuff. All the legislation, all the litigations is coming out in regards to, everything we have going on, man. So keep doing great things, man. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, give us a huge thumbs up. If you're new to the virtual smoke net, man, go ahead and hit that like and follow button. And definitely go ahead and like Dapper D's and follow DapperDCigars.com. I mean Dapper D's on Instagram and Facebook. Man, we have a lot of great events that we post there, as well as any shows that we have coming up as well. We're live every Sunday at 7 p.m. on the virtual smoke deck. And next week, to kind of bring in another influential guy that's doing great things, man. Great things, man. We got Eddie Trezona coming on the show, man. We're really excited about this segment, man. Eddie is blending a hell of a cigar that I think everybody should know about, and everybody should at least consume. So with that being said, man, I hope you guys enjoyed this segment. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. I'm Jack the Cigar Enthusiast. Make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jack the Cigar Enthusiast. Go follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Dapper D Cigars, and Facebook on the Virtual Smoke Deck. And I'm gone.